there's a lot of people who write in to talk about the worst moments of their life. And one of the kind of themes that bubble up is in the worst moments, they either really needed a community to come surround to be a part of the solution that they needed, or it was actually in participating in a cause that wasn't just their own, time of undoing, that it gave them a feeling of purpose and a reason. I mean, it's so weird that but in caring for others,
Yes.
it really does sometimes whittle away at our own sorrow and start to be part of our healing.
And that's an important point, because if you focus on your own stuff, then you forget what's really important in life, and making sure that you're not pulling away. So for example, when my husband got the diagnosis for cancer, he was asymptomatic. And we had gone to the Mayo Clinic for our annual checkup. Yeah. So you go to your annual checkup, you're feeling fine, so you don't anticipate that there's going to be any bad news. And then to end up walking away there is some bad news, and here it is, and we need to get you into treatment immediately. And so we drove back from Rochester, Minnesota to Chicago, and I was driving and just driving through tears of 5 hours of what just happened.
Yeah.
And he's lying back in the car in pain after the biopsy, and just both of us were like,
because it
what
went from
just
diagnosis
happened?
and then to biopsy right away.
Oh yeah, they were this is
brutal.
we need to act on this now.
Oh my gosh.
And did you want us to schedule surgery next week? And it's no.
Wait a minute, whoa.
Can we just digest what just
Yeah.
happened? And then his recovery was awful. It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
But and he's a pastor, and he just kept talking to the Lord and saying, why me? Of course, everybody asked that question. And then, why am I not healing well? And why am I in so much pain? And he said the Lord kept telling him, this illness is not unto death. And he held on to that word. And then out of this, so many strangers, men, have called him, and a friend of mine, a friend of a friend of a friend, said, you had gone through this cancer. I need to talk to you. Here's what the doctor's saying. How did you recover? And so he has been now that counselor, that encourager for so many.
The person who can
that
keep
was
pace.
for him.
Yeah.
And then what I got out of the experience was, while he was in surgery, I made the decision that my parents asked, do you want us to come? I said, no, I didn't want his no need for his family to come. I said, I'll be fine. I'm going to stay in the hospital room. And my A-type personality, I brought with me 2 computers, 3 cell phones, and an iPad, found the nearest electrical plug, set up office in at Northwestern Hospital, and sat there for hours by myself trying to do work. And then it just dawned on me, this is not a good place to be by yourself and alone. And it hurt.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I made the decision, I will never, ever let a friend go alone and sit in a hospital waiting room by themselves. Yeah. It hurts.
It's awful.
So again, you go through these experiences.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you need to help other people. Yeah. And so another close friend of ours called and said, hey, I'm in town. My husband's having surgery and I've got to go to work. And so I said, she said, what's Rod doing? And my husband, I was like, I'll tell him, he'll definitely go, because we lived right next to Northwestern Hospital. And so I called Rod, and he said, I am definitely going over there. And our friend, he thanked us post-surgery. He said, thank you, Rod, for coming, because again, there's certain things in life you don't want to go through by yourself. And you just have to make sure that you surround yourself with good people. And then secondly, be vulnerable enough to share what's going on in your life with other people and not keep it a secret.
I don't like that part. when it's so much easier to keep it a secret and then suffer.
Listen, and I am the one that is
I'll
like
just take my
ultra.
work. I got this whole plan.
Ultra.
I
like,
see you.
I'm the control. I've got it in control.
I got this
I'm large and in charge.
Yeah, I would totally do that. Oh my gosh, I did almost all my medical travel alone.
Oh,
and
did you?
And it was terrible. And I wouldn't have ever said how terrible it was.
Well, I made the commitment to my husband when it came back.
Yeah.
And he had to go for radiation. I said, well, I will take you every morning because it was, 5 days a week.
So much work.
And I said, but do you mind if we do it like the first part of the morning? So I'll get you back, make sure everything's in order, and then I'll go to work for a couple of hours, check on you, and then come back. And that worked well for us. And then, radiation is really tough on the body. And so there were times where it was just like really hard on him.
How recent was this?
Well, I will tell you this. The first diagnosis was shortly, like within months of us being married. So we got married June 25th, 2005. So 18 years in, and then it reoccurred 2018. So, yeah.
I wonder, it's funny. You're professionally in charge of teaching everyone interdependence, but like your entire life in ministry and ethos is like, I will help create categories that support other people helping others.
Right.
And then when it comes to our own personal, I will bear up this life on my own. We have a lot of people in our community who who are, caregiving is a big part of their life and almost like personality. They'd be like, who are you? A caregiver, right? Whether it's kids or people with special needs or parents or partners, but like caregivers. What do you say maybe to people who want service to be a part of their life, but then so much of the rest of their life is also kind of service?
Yes. And so sometimes if you're in service, for example, as a chaplain or as a nurse or a doctor or just so many different ways of social work or a navigator, community navigator, sometimes it's great to do service in something totally different.
Oh, I see. Yeah, totally. You're like, I'm going to do this animal rescue thing.
Right.
Instead of talking to sad people about their sad problems if I do that in the day. Yeah.
So I think it just really also, even more importantly, in terms of self-care, how do you find joy and humor out of life? And how do you make sure, because joy is one of my core values, I laugh all the time. I smile nonstop.
Yeah.
And it's just who I am.
Yeah.
And so even in your darkest hour, if there's something that you can find to laugh at, it just changes everything in your body.
I mean, if we were going to talk people into a life defined by service and love of others, there's all the parts that are just like the doing but one of the weird, I feel like, side benefits of being open to the world is like, it does open up a capacity for joy. But it is, when you say joy is one of my core values, it feels like a lovely foundation to rest on, that you know that you have a big capacity for joy.
And I have to throw this scripture in from the Bible that says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so no matter how dark the days are, if you just level set on your spiritual core and your belief system, and then knowing that a dark place or a valley is in between two mountains. And so eventually you're going to be moving up to the mountaintop. Now, of course, there's going to be another valley experience, but then you get back up and go on to the next mountaintop.
Yeah. Knowing in the worst moments that it won't stay there. I mean, that is one of the, even just pace setting your own pain or discomfort with going through the awful thing. A person who says like, this, my love, will not last, is like new strength kind of bubbles up from under the ground.
But there are some things that happen in life that become permanent But the question is, how do you view your circumstance? And what do you say about it? And in that, you can actually transition and still have peace, because that's another component. There's joy, and then there's peace. And then the scripture says the peace that surpasses all understanding. And people will look at you and say, how could you be peaceful in a situation like this?
Yeah.
That's where the spiritual peace comes in, and the grounding and the foundation.